We've all heard the expression, blind as a bat. I grew up hearing it most screamed at referees during basketball games. Today it's become an idiom used to describe people completely unable to recognize problems or bad things, like a lot of people these days. But where did the expression come from? But are bats really blind? Let's find out the answers to this and many other questions, such as, what's a bat's favorite dessert? Everybody knows it's an upside-down cake. Join me. Let's go deep into the bat cave of strange and unusual facts about bats. Welcome back. I'm Jeff Hix, curator of the Strange As It Seems archives and grandnephew of John Hix, who created Strange As It Seems back in the late 1920s. What differentiated Strange As It Seems from Ripley's Believe It or Not, its main competitor back in the day, was that John Hix insisted that every fact be proven true. And it was these folders full of fascinating facts, photographs, letters, affidavits proving that every fact published in the Strange As It Seems feature was true. And so for this episode, let's grab the folder from the archives entitled Bats. To begin with, we have a comic strip from August 19th, 1932 that John Hix entitles What Nots? I love that. What Not? Or what I like to call mythconceptions, including cold cream does not contain cream, peacock feathers are not colored, the nighthawk is not a hawk and does not fly at night, centipedes do not have 100 legs, tigers do not live in Africa, the Caspian Sea is not a sea, arsenic is not a poison, New York is not the birthplace of the skyscraper, and bats are not blind. And of course at the bottom, for further proof, address the author, including a stamped envelope for reply. John Hix. And here we have multiple sources debunking the fact that bats are not blind. And here we have the Crossland and Parrish article, Wildlife in Our World from 1934. As blind as a bat is all wrong. Bats can see, though the eyes in some are very minute. We have the reference here from Hornaday's American Natural History, page 60. You can be blind as a bat and still see. This is true for the obvious reason that bats are not blind. Their eyesight is not particularly good, but there is no doubt they can see, even in daylight. Their sight is best at twilight, when they're able to absorb all the light with their defective eyes. They cannot see in total darkness. Bats do possess an uncanny ability to feel their way about where there is no light. They have been released in total dark rooms, together with keen-visioned insects, and the bats quickly found and ate their less fortunate victims. The insects were helpless without the aid of their eyes. This is fascinating to me because this comic strip in 1931, a bat, with its eyes and ears sealed, can fly about with perfect ease in a dark room filled with obstacles. This was a mystery at the time, and unproven as yet by science. Also from The Wonders of the Animal World by Dupuy, page 6, a bat with eyes and ears sealed can fly around a room filled with objects with perfect ease. And how does it do that? We also have this article from the Detroit News, Sunday, December 11th. The Cave of the Bats, millions of them. 5 to 25 millions pour out of Carlsbad Cavern at dusk to hunt the 25 tons of bugs they eat on night flights. Fascinating article here, and the write-up as well. Many are the mysteries of Bat Cave, but one which is frequently asked is how the bats in the pitch-black depths of the cave can tell the moment night falls. After emerging from the cave, the bats cover a range extending up to 200 miles from the cave. How they find their way back home in the dead of night is another unanswered question. Did you hear about the man who thought he was Batman? What a joker. I love the end of this article. Jim White, the flint-faced cowpuncher who discovered the cavern 40 years ago, was asked, where do they go when they die? Bats, said Jim, live almost forever, but sometimes they die, and that's why you don't see live bats in the lower caverns. That's their graveyard, boy. I've seen them lying on the cave floor, mummified bats, petrified bats, bats turned to stone. If you dropped them, they broke into 1,000 pieces. Come along with me sometime, and I'll show you. And next in the folder, we have the John Hix scrapbook from August 1st, 1937, with the comic strip Bats Are Not Blind. You can easily find their way through darkness with their eyes and ears sealed due to some mysterious sense, as yet undiscovered. Also the Bat Cave, Carlsbad Cavern. From every night at dusk emerge over 5 million bats, which eat about 25 tons of insects. We have the long-eared bat, which has longer ears for its size than any other animal. The fruit bat, which has a wingspread of 5 feet. Some bats are only 2 inches long, but measure 12 inches across. We got the fishing bats of South America that catch fish from the water like hawks. And the most famous place for bats in the world, San Antonio, Texas, where, at this time anyway, we had a bat hotel. Bats are provided homes in San Antonio, Texas, because they help fight malaria by devouring mosquitoes. And the original comic strip from March 30th, 1932, where this story appeared, where John Hix called it a flop house for bats. And these mysteries remained all the way up through 1939. Here we have the Illustrated London News, The World of Science from May 27th, 1939, by W.P. Pycraft, in which he discusses their striking structural peculiarities. I must confine myself to that of the bats, wherein the forelimb, by some mysterious transformation of the hand, has become changed into a wing. I say mysteriously because so far no one has been able to offer any explanation as to the way in which this has come about. It is fascinating that bats are the only mammals that can fly. Of course, there's the flying squirrel, but they just glide. There's the Kitty's hognose bat, or bumblebee bat, world's smallest mammal, weighs less than a penny. Or the flying fox, whose wingspan goes all the way up to 6 feet. And did you know that without bats, you could say goodbye to bananas, mangoes, avocados? Because bats spread seeds for nuts, figs, cacao. We wouldn't have chocolate. Without bats, we wouldn't have saguaro cactus or agave, which means without agave, we wouldn't have tequila. Some reach speeds of 100 miles an hour, and the longest living bat is 41 years old. You know how you can tell when a group of bats are really good friends? They always hang out together. And in another story taken from the World of Science Illustrated London News, a flittermouse is like a flying bread basket. It's a bat from England that feeds from a pouch while it's in flight. This story was so good, my grandma Elsie published it again in 1956. Elsie also published later in the 50s that as early as 1800, experiments had demonstrated that bats avoided objects in the dark through the use of their ears. Science had yet to prove it, until this article from 1941 that showed how the scientific experiments proved, after nearly 150 years of experimenting, solved the riddle of how bats fly at night. And this article in fascinating detail shows how they placed a glass tube in the bat's ears to show how inaudible sounds normally uttered by bats help to guide them. Then they also blindfolded the animals to do other tests. And here's Robert Galambos, one of the experimenters, tuning into bat cries out of the Pierce detector, which for the first time made supersonic vibrations audible to the human ear. And 1944 looks to be the year that science continued to crack the code. We have the News Bureau from the General Electric Company. This was written in July 1944, which is fascinating for the family history because it says here, "Very, very good" by E.H., who is Ernest Hix. And this was actually the same month that his brother John died from myocarditis. But an amazing time for science. And this article fully clears up the mystery that as the bat flies through the air, it emits a constant stream of high-pitched cries which permeate the space in front of the animal. If there are any obstacles out there, like tree branches or fence posts, the sound is reflected and echoed back. What do you call a crazy bat in a bell tower? A dingbat. And this article, reprinted from Science Magazine, December 29th, 1944, by Donald Griffin, from the Biological Laboratories at Harvard University. There are a number of situations where men or animals cannot see clearly, but nevertheless succeed in finding their way about by making sounds and detecting echoes from solid objects, which are still some distance away. Many blind persons develop, in the course of time, a considerable ability to avoid obstacles by means of auditory cues received from sounds of their own making, such as footsteps or the tapping of a cane. Their skill can be drastically impaired by earplugs or distracting noises. Bats can fly through the total darkness of caves without striking the walls or the jutting stalactites, which may complicate their path. The bats emit a supersonic cry, inaudible to human ears because its frequency is from 30,000 to 70,000 CPS. No idea what that is, and orient themselves by means of the echoes of this cry which return to them from any obstacles which lie ahead. Since there is no convenient term available to describe this process of locating obstacles by means of echoes, I suggest the word echolocation, not only for the abilities of bats and blind men, but for several other analogous cases which I shall mention below, which John Hix put into January 1st, 1941, strange as it seems comic strip, Nature's Radar. In flight, bats give off a continuous series of shrill cries, inaudible to the human ear. Echoes of these silent sounds reflect from obstacles ahead, guiding the bat's course. What did the bat say to the vampire? You suck. And of course, the most famous bat of all, the vampire bat, the blood-lapping bat of the Caribbean, has an upper pair of triangular scoop-shaped teeth with which it gouges its victims. And here in the notes we find too that with its front teeth it gouges out a trough and the victims hide her skin. Rabbits and calves stand perfectly still until the bat has finished its meal. So while bats have always been associated with vampires, it's interesting to think that vampires in folklore in Europe existed for thousands of years, whereas the only vampire bats were in Central and South America, which wasn't discovered by the Europeans until the 1500s. Bats were actually named for the human vampire, not the other way around. My grandma Elsie seemed to love doing stories on bats. Here in 1954, she features studies at Cornell University, the mysteries of hibernation that reveal when a bat goes into hibernation, its heart slows from 180 beats per minute down to 2 or 3 beats per minute. And in August 8th of 1954, the bat's pituitary gland is about the size of a pinhead. Another one from 1954, bat fossils date back more than 60 million years, and bat species today live in every climate but the Arctic and the Antarctic. What do you say to a bat that just won the lottery? Coagulations. And this story, which Grandma Elsie found in the American Mercury magazine, page 37, January 1956, the belief that bats carry vermin has been proved to be a complete fallacy. In fact, actually, next to man, the little fellows are the cleanest animal in the world. I love the note here from my grandma. I didn't know this was a popular belief. In another story in 1956, bats can be knocked unconscious by the report of a gun. The sound, magnified by their sensitive ears, stuns them. Or how about this curiosity? While cast fishing for bass in Kings River, Rue Berry of Huntsville, Arkansas, hooked and caught a bat in midair. Elsie writes Rue to verify, and we have the handwritten letter from Rue Berry. Dear Madam, in regard to the letter I received from you, I guess your information is true. I was casting for bass in Kings River at night and actually caught a bat in midair. Yours truly, Rue Berry. And also in 1956, Elsie was still fascinated by the Bat Hotel constructed in San Antonio, Texas. And here we have a letter back from the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. A number of years ago, Dr. Charles Campbell built several bat roosts here and also wrote a book entitled Bats, Mosquitoes, and Dollars. In 1915, a municipal bat roost was built, the first municipal construction of its kind in the world, and a recommendation by the Board of Health. San Antonio became the pioneer in a natural, hygienic, and economic measure, destined eventually to prove worldwide in application. Dr. Campbell continued to make a canvass of the Mitchell Lake lands, and not a single case of malaria was found, where formerly 89% of the tenant farmers in that section had the disease in some form or another. This bat roost still stands, although unfortunately I don't think it does still today. But not far away on the outskirts of San Antonio, we have the Bracken Cave Preserve, the world's largest bat colony with 15 million Mexican free-tailed bats. And one last note on the wacky world of bats. It hasn't always been smooth sailing for the lovable little bat. Today it's facing one of the worst wildlife diseases in modern times. It's called white nose disease. It's killing millions of bats across North America. And the best thing you can do to help, leave them alone, don't disturb them. Keep your lights off if you live in an area where you're near bats. And stay out of caves if you can. And if you do go in, make sure your shoes and gear are clean, because that's how the disease spreads, is human beings going in and out of caves. Even though people can't get the disease, we're the ones unknowingly moving it from place to place, endangering the populations of bats across North America. And that about wraps it up for our misunderstood and underappreciated friend, the bat. Thanks for watching and listening. And if you like stories like this, mined from the Strange as It Seems library of the curious in nature and humankind, Please like, follow, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for next week's episode here at Strange As It Seems. And meanwhile, hang in there.